thought for the day. You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. Welcome to 7 Minutes for Yourself. I'm Christina Aina, and I'm so glad you've joined me for what I believe will be 7 of the most enriching minutes of your day. Let's take this time to reconnect with ourselves and improve our well-being. In today's episode of 7 Minutes for Yourself, we're taking a look at the lessons and personal growth that comes from traveling. Have a listen.
The very first thing that I have learned while traveling is a big perspective shift happens when you're able to travel. For me, in the countries that I've traveled to, whether it's a developed country or a less developed country, whether it's a country that I have visited or it's a country that I have kind of lived in, my perspective is shifted each and every time. I'm a big people watcher. I like to, from the second I get into the airport, just kind of put some music on. I'll people watch while we're just kind of in the airport, while we're on the plane, and ultimately when I get to my final destination. And I like to observe. It's a natural thing for me as a science teacher. I like to observe. I like to watch and see what happens. And as a result of this, regardless of the place that I'm traveling to, my perspective always shifts. And I'm going to say as well, my perspective shifts in a positive way. There's so many things to learn as we step outside of our little world. I might think that my town that I live in is a big kind of community. Right? There's only 5,000 people that live in my hometown. So growing up, I thought this was kind of my whole world. But as I expand that out to my province, to my country, to my continent, to the entire world, you really realize how small your perspective is, right? So that's a benefit of really traveling and growing and shifting that perspective. The second thing that happens, and for me this is a big one, is it builds confidence because you're put in challenging situations sometimes. Sometimes situations come up that you don't expect. And you can be talking about traveling in your own country, in your own province or state. You can be talking about traveling internationally. One of my favorite trips that I've ever done is I did a bike trip. I cycled for about 2,000 kilometers with two friends, kind of right as we came out of high school. Into our first year of university. And with that, we had many things come up. Everything from flat tires, everything from not knowing where we were going to be sleeping that night, and the sun was kind of setting, and to where we were going to get food, water, etc. All of those things came our way, and we didn't know what to expect. And with those challenging times, we grew through it. We communicated. We developed a stronger relationship. We figured it out. And really with that growth that happened is the confidence came along too. And for me, this is probably one of the areas that I have worked on quite a bit in my life, not doubting myself, not wondering if I'm good enough. Some people might find that hard to believe if they know me in person. It's something that's kind of been working on for a while and something that really I constantly revisit. And I think that traveling is one of the best ways to put myself outside of my comfort zone in these challenging places, and then from there value the growth that comes from it. Because I've really learned over time to value the growth and not worry too much about on the little things that happen to me, but look more at what the growth happens because of it. So that's number 2. Number 3 is networking, right? You're expanding your network to a global audience. And some of the situations that I can think of, whether it's sitting on a train in Melbourne, Australia, riding into the inner part of the city, hearing somebody talk funny, and it was another Canadian like me, that I was able to sit down, just ask them a little about themselves, and get to know them a little bit more. Or whether it is people that I have met while traveling. You never know who you're going to sit beside on a train, on a plane. You never know For me, I was a teacher, so I was able to teach students from all over the world, from so many different countries, and make the connections that really are going to last for a lifetime. So networking is a great thing, just personally, just relationally, but at the same time, if you're a business person, if you're an entrepreneur, some of the networking that can come from your travels is incredible. Whether it's just kind of connecting over a funny accent, like a Canadian to a Canadian conversation, whether it's where you went to university or who you're meeting on the street, for any reason, networking is always possible. And in a lot of ways, really kind of surprises you and sneaks up. And a lot of people would think that those are divine moments in many situations and many stories that they might be able to tell. So that's number 3. Number 4 is ultimately from traveling as a result, and I'm thankful for this, I have become smarter. I start to see things from a more global intelligence rather than just being able to focus on my one individual community, my one individual network that I have. I am able to speak to that specifically, but I'm also able to speak to a more national or international, global perspective as well. So with that, I've become smarter because I've been able to see how they do things in other parts of the world that I can bring back to my own job, my own community. And the intelligence is something that really builds on each other. And in many ways, over time, the dots are connected. And I've talked about this a lot with people that I know. I am still connecting dots from 5, 10 years ago, some of the travels that I have had, just as a result of traveling, as a result of meeting people, as a result of experiencing things outside of my little world. I'm still connecting the dots, and I'm definitely grateful for that.
That concludes today's episode of 7 Minutes for Yourself. Please take a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. Today and every day with your kiddo is a gift. Enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in.